Not really. It would be great to have like some pasta.
Likewise.
Sorry?
Where'd that come from?
I'm just supposed to bring it. Then we actually go to the weekend,
My pleasure.
and I'm like, let's
Enjoy.
No, I'll be so ice cream. It's pretty cool. The trails in the past. This is like probably like my last one. I would love to. This is a pesto. So you know, like the next time I could go do this. I want to make this like a secret thing. I'm saying that I want to do something. I would like to. It might be too much. So that's what I know. Very nice to meet you. Very happy to see you. I know before. Yeah, I love to sit down.
I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready. They're ready. I'm ready. So actually, yeah, I'm on my hands.
So we know now. So now I'll sit behind you.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, for sure. Bring your papers. Bring your papers, your.
I think they're about to begin.
All the best. Anything?
Done, and then I'll get to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Every fun. You've done this before.
Nothing.
You were next to
There were a
here.
lot of people are all like, this is just me screwing up in front of
So please, can I have your legs?
I haven't talked to him since I
Say hi. Tell him you stand next to him.
Yeah, I was.
He knows you. That was the video we submitted.
Oh,
So they were impressed with that. So, you know, they... All the best.
Why don't you come and sit right there? And what's going to happen is the president is going to call on you, and when he's going to call on you to ask you to deliver your speech, you're going to get up from the chair, and you're going to put yourself right there, and you're going to deliver your speech from here. Sounds good?
This is going to be activated.
Is it on the right level for you? I want to make sure.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you. Please, can I ask everyone to take their seats, please? Good morning, everyone. I don't hear anything. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That's it. We want to emphasize participation in this discussion. So the more active we can all be in engaging with all of us. If people could please be seated, I would appreciate it. We'd like to get the meeting started. Okay, we will start. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to the 2025 Youth Forum of the Economic and Social Council, and I'm calling to order its first meeting. I want to thank you all for coming from far away, for some of you, and with many challenges, I know, for many to actually be able to get here on time. We're delighted to have you with us. I can now inform you, as a result of what we have been told by those who have been organizing the meeting, that this is the largest gathering of young people at the United Nations. And we're very, very delighted to have all of you here for that discussion. Just to say to all of you who I know will be actively engaging on social media, that you can add your voice to our discussions by using the hashtag ECOSOC all capitalized, ECOSOC Youth with the Y capitalized, Y-O-U-T-H. I'm very delighted to welcome all of you who are joining and connecting online to the 2025 ECOSOC Youth Forum. This year's forum is being held under the theme of Youth at the Forefront, leveraging science and social inclusion for sustainable development. The thematic focus of the forum, which is on health, gender, equality, decent work, life below water, and partnerships for the goals, is as critical as ever. We all know that the world now stands at the crossroads of multiple crises, from ongoing conflicts and the escalating effects of climate change to widespread poverty, inequalities, and hunger. The urgency of shaping a more sustainable, inclusive, and just future for all has never been clearer. So I say to all of you here who are young, and I suspect that together with the President, we're a couple of the oldest people in the room, but I say to all of you that you are not only the leaders of tomorrow. Many times when we speak to young people, you will hear speakers say, you are tomorrow's leaders. Well, from my perspective, you are not tomorrow's leaders. You are today's leaders. We can't wait for tomorrow. We need you to start participating and taking charge today. And I say this because the world's most pressing problems are not abstract or distant. They are within reach, and they rely on the creative and the innovative ideas that intergenerational dialogue can bring forward every single day. It's not about passing the torch from one generation to the next. It's about a conversation between all generations in which we need young people to be at the table and really being present in the conversation and in the discussion. We all know that we have a challenge to face. In the United Nations family, we speak often about the SDGs, and sometimes people outside these halls say, what are the SDGs? And what I say in response to that question is, the Sustainable Development Goals are neither abstract or distant, and they are not theoretical. They are simply an expression of the common decency of humanity. That's what the SDGs are. When we talk about food and water, when we talk about peace and equality, when we talk about the need to show respect and dignity to everyone, wherever they may come from, whatever may be their race, their religion, or their nationality, that is what the SDGs are. And we have to recognize that we are still not meeting the targets that we need to meet. Let me just say a little bit about technology, because we are going to be talking about technology over the next 3 days. And again, based on my conversations with my grandchildren, who are even younger than the people in this audience, I can tell you they know a lot more about technology than I do. And you can lead the conversation on technology because you use it, you know it, you are growing up in it, and you know far more about it than the older people who are still hanging around. And it's so important for you to express your concerns and views, and not only that, but also your knowledge about what it is that the technology of the present represents for all of us. We know that from artificial intelligence to space technologies, you were at the front lines, harnessing the power of these tools to create solutions that address climate change, that improve healthcare, that foster inclusive economies, and do much more. Technology is transforming the world, and young people, you all, are at the very heart of this transformation. However, it is essential that we acknowledge the challenges that remain. Many young people, particularly in low-income countries and marginalized communities, do not have the access to the technology and the digital infrastructure that could help them unlock their full potential. So we need to understand that while 80% of young people have access to the internet, we need to understand that that means fully 1 in 5 do not have that access. And that's a huge number of people who now have no access to the internet and in future will have no access to artificial intelligence. And so we have to deal with this problem of access that looks at the situation that's facing people in the developing world all throughout the world and deal with it in a way that's going to ensure that there are people who have the opportunity to overcome the digital divide that still separates those who have access to technology and those that do not. Because this access to technology, as we all know, it means access to work. It means access to jobs. It means access to advancement. It means access to education. Et c'est pourquoi c'est tellement important.
And that is why it is so important.
Je vais parler en français pour quelques minutes.
I'm going to be speaking in French for a few minutes. Just to say that we have to understand that the discussions we're going to have will put the spotlight on the purpose of development. And development must be equitable, and it must always be associated with facts, science, and the reality we live in. We can't just assume that reality is in myths, that it lies in disinformation, misinformation. All of that constantly creates problems for all those who depend for their education, for their sense of technology, sense of reality on technology.
Places where you are heard. where you are valued, and where you're integrated into decision-making processes. For example, in my role as ambassador, I'm pleased that the Permanent Mission of Canada has recently established a youth advisory board to meaningfully consult young people in our work at the UN. I encourage my colleagues to do the same. It's very important that we do that. You can applaud if you like. I have no objection to applause, I can tell you. So for 14 years, we've had this forum. As I said, this is the biggest one we've had, and it's going to be very successful. But it really now means that we have 3 days of intense activity where you will be present in all the discussions. And you'll be roaming through the building, and you'll be talking to each other, and you'll have an opportunity to share lots of ideas and views. But I also want to say that we have a record number this year of ministers, cabinet ministers, government ministers, who are here today. And I congratulate all those governments for sending this number of people to this discussion. It's tremendous to have you with us. Thank you so much. And for me, the Youth Forum is a really vital introduction to a busy time in the calendar of ECOSOC leading up to the end of July, when the ECOSOC year comes to an end, and my colleague from Nepal will become the next president of ECOSOC. And I congratulate him for that, but I'd ask him to hold on until the end of July, because there's still life in the old guy yet, and I'm still going strong. We're going to have some critical meetings coming up. The 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, the 2nd World Summit for Social Development. And I think it's important for you to know that the ideas and the concepts that you bring to these discussions are ideas and concepts that we need to take forward in our discussions going forward. And finally, as much as we spend these 3 days talking, there's one other thing I'd like to suggest, and that is listening is also a good idea. Really spending time listening to your colleagues, learning from them, engaging with them, and giving them an opportunity to tell them what they think and what their experience is. And that's what makes these forums so interesting and so exciting, is that it's not only an opportunity to speak, it's also an opportunity to listen and an opportunity to learn. I would like to now, I've been told I now have to say something else. So the final thing I want to say is let's move beyond talk. Let's get into doing stuff and making sure that you're holding us accountable for the work that we do. It's very important that we do that. And before I end my remarks, I've now been told that I'm supposed to invite the forum to view a video presentation. Thank you all very much. Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias.
We are here. We are ready. We are the largest generation of young people in history. We have the energy, ideas, and we are full of hope. But we need more. Our world is in crisis. Wars are raging, inequalities are widening, the climate emergency is getting worse. And yet, you are still making decisions about our future without us. We are not just potential leaders of the future. We are the leaders of today. We are ready to take action, but we want a seat at the table. At the ECOSOC Youth Forum, we have our chance to do just that. We will be bringing our voices, our ideas, and our solutions. But we don't just want to be heard. We want to be a part of the decisions that shape our future. Today, our world needs bold actions. The SDGs are our roadmap. And young people, we are the drivers. So, to our leaders, we ask, will you listen to us? Will you include us? Will you act with us? Because the future is not something we'll wait for. We want to build it together now.
Thank you all so much for listening to that. I thought it was a great video. I'm going to now invite Umaima Makhlouk, who is the data focal point at the Youth Science Policy Interface platform of the major group for children and youth, to deliver a statement. Umaima, you now have the floor. Thank you so much for coming to us.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends. Thank you to the President of ECOSOC, the Interagency Network on Youth Development, UNDESA, the Major Group for Children and Youth, and all of our youth partners groups for bringing us together today. My name is Umaima. I am an AI engineer and a proud member of MGCY. But above all, I stand here as a mother, someone whose heart is deeply connected to the future in the most profound way. And today, I bring to you the power in youth. First, let me share my personal perspective. 6 months ago, my son Adam came into this world. 1 month early, in distress, and in a transverse position. A traumatic emergency C-section saved both our lives. A few decades ago in Morocco, we might have been killed. Yet here we are, healthy and whole, a living testament to how far science, technology, and innovation can go. Yet, as I watch my son grow, I am reminded of this painful truth. Not all mothers have that same chance. In another corner of the world, a mother wrote, "After 50 days, I was forced to flee again under fire, running, screaming, and crying because of the bombs. At that moment, I feared I might lose my baby. We are here, starting from nothing. No shelter, no home, not even a destiny. We built a tent again, and we promised each other again that we must survive no matter what happens. 2 weeks later, I felt some pain. It was labor pains. I thought, no, it's too early. I want to give birth at home. I went directly to the hospital, but they told me there was no way for natural birth. It was too dangerous. Her name is Ala. She is a mother from Gaza. And her story is a stark reminder that safe childbirth cannot be a privilege. It must be a universal right. And children and youth can no longer be mass casualties of the military-industrial complex. Gaza is not only a humanitarian crisis, it is a deep wound in the heart and soul of our humanity. One that will never heal. A place where youth dream under bombs, where babies are killed, where hostages are afraid for their lives, and where hope survives, not because of the world, but in spite of it. This painful reality mirrors the struggles faced by youth around the world: climate crisis, conflicts, gender violence, and limited access to quality health, quality education, and quality work. So what is the cost of our collective inaction and inefficiencies? Over 200 million young people are not in school, work, or training. And while more than $2 trillion has been spent on defense, the $100 billion promised for climate finance has not been met yet. This is the imbalance that we must confront. Do not invest in warfare. Invest in the power in youth. And now coming to the collective views of youth constituency, we highlight that the 2030 Agenda, the Pact for the Future, and all the other UN resolutions must be more than words on paper. They reflect our generation's declaration that youth and global solidarity must be lived, not just promised. That youth are not a food fronts. We are shaping our future, and that youth engagement must be universal, equitable, mandated, and well-resourced. The theme of this forum, Youth at the Forefront, Leveraging Science and Social Inclusion for Sustainable Development, is not a slogan. It is a blueprint. It is a mission. It is a call to action. Now is the time to turn our ideas into powerful solutions and into tangible policies. We cannot deliver SDG 3 without protecting the youth well-being, SDG 5 without listening to the stories of mothers like Ala, SDG 8 or SDG 17 without creating decent jobs and undertaking a complete reform of the global financial architecture. We need a holistic economy that puts people first, youth and children first, poverty first, environment first, not capital, profits, and fossil fuels first. Support the power in youth. Because young people are not just imagining change, we are already delivering it with youth entrepreneurs like Jeremiah Thoronka, who is transforming foodsteps into clean electricity in Sierra Leone, through critical partnerships like the UNICEF's Innovation Fund, and through my own constituency, MGCY Science Policy Interface, a global network of young people working at the intersection of science, policy, and diplomacy. We are implementing the Global Digital Compacts and co-organizing initiatives like the UN Datathon, where 1,500 young innovators leverage AI to address SDG challenges. And it doesn't stop here. Look around you. This is the largest youth gathering at the United Nations, not just attended by youth, but co-created by youth and the UN system. Children and youth around you are the human faces of the 2030 Agenda. These aren't just inspiring stories, they're proof. When children and youth are equipped and trusted, we deliver change. So listen to the power in youth. And here are 4 steps we must take together. First, we must continue to strengthen the ECOSOC Youth Forum as a platform for youth action, not just dialogue, where youth can share resources, celebrate success stories, and lead change. Second, we must create a global fund of funds for grassroots youth-led projects. Third, we must hold governments accountable. There should be no backsliding or regressing on youth movement. Fourth, the ECOSOC Youth Forum cannot just be a standalone event. We need more of these forums and more of these follow-up platforms to be able to drive change. So let's get to work. People power, power in youth. And so I leave you with this very powerful poem from Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, whose verses capture the memory of childhood. أحن إلى خبز أمي.
I'm nostalgic to the bread of my mother, the coffee of my mother, the touch of my mother. And in my childhood, thinking of my mother, I love my life because if I died, I will be ashamed of the tears of my mother.
Resonates with millions of children across the world. This is the heart of it all. Sustainable development isn't just about moving forward. It is about who we refuse to leave behind. It's about making sure mothers survive childbirth. Children are given a safe childhood, and science reaches every margin. From SDG 1 to 17, the message is clear. Youth must be at the forefront, driving innovation, demanding inclusion, and holding power to account. This forum is not just a gathering, it's a launchpad. And what we do next is what history will remember. So please don't leave this room just inspired. Leave it committed, leave it activated. Let us protect our future. Let us build it. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Thank you. Merci. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Umaima, for those comments. I think it's inspired all of us. I'd now like to call upon the President of the 79th session of the General Assembly, His Excellency Philemon Yang, to address the forum. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
I must say that I am inspired and I feel wonderful seeing so many young people. As a grandparent, it's a wonderful opportunity to be here with you. Dear young people, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the President of the Economic and Social Council, His Excellency Mr. Bob Ray, for inviting me to join you today. The theme of the Youth Forum this year, Youth at the Forefront, Leveraging Science and Social Inclusion for Sustainable Development, is aptly befitting. You, the world's 1.2 billion young people, are indeed at the forefront of positive change, driving climate action, advocating for social inclusion, equality, and justice, and developing solutions to the many challenges of our day. And in reality, it's impossible to give a whole list of the challenges. We, in turn, have a responsibility to listen to your voices. You are our future. You are already leaders in your own right. To give you a seat at the table and consult you in decisions affecting your future is a wonderful responsibility for us. We have much to learn from you as co-creators and in no small part as implementers of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. You indeed play a crucial role in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring that no one is left behind. As you know, rapid technological advances, especially in the digital sphere, are opening new avenues for you to engage, and your engagement is important to us. Yet while we celebrate these new avenues and the benefits of science and technological progress, especially in artificial intelligence, we must recognize that these gains are not being shared equally all over the world. The digital divide is becoming more pronounced along existing socioeconomic parameters. Access to technology and digital tools remains particularly limited in developing countries. Young people in less affluent environments lack the same opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute as their wealthier peers. The gap widens exponentially as the less fortunate are unable to connect to the internet, build digital skills, or access education, including in critical subjects such as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This disparity is particularly pronounced amongst women and girls. It is the task of us all to address these gaps and improve this reality. We must facilitate equal access to digital tools for all people all over the world. We must invest in education, infrastructure, and job opportunities that will allow everyone everywhere to thrive in the global digital economy. This is good for societies and economies that benefit from increased capacities and productivity. Let me be clear. Empowering our young people is an investment that delivers sustained benefits across society and the future they shape. The Pact for the Future, adopted in September 2024, outlines actions to revitalize multilateralism and accelerate progress toward the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. I strongly urge member states and all relevant stakeholders to fully implement the Pact for the Future. In this connection, last month I held the first informal interactive dialogue for member states focused on the means of implementation, giving particular attention to the one of the Pact's annexes, the Declaration on Future Generations. The Declaration on Future Generations underscores the value of intergenerational dialogue and the need to shape policies and programs with a long-term horizon. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the World Programme of Action for Youth. This important milestone will be marked by a high-level meeting next September. I have appointed the permanent representatives of Ireland and Malawi as co-facilitators to lead consultations for the arrangements of this high-level meeting. Going forward, I will continue to emphasize the invaluable contribution of youth in driving innovation and change. I will also continue to call for the empowerment of young people globally. To this end, in the coming weeks, I will convene a multi-stakeholder dialogue to assess the implementation of commitments made towards Africa's development. This event will focus on digitalization and innovation as avenues to empower the youth in Africa. In addition, I will continue to advocate for gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls everywhere, with a special focus on the economic empowerment through close consultation with my advisory board on gender equality. Our world is going through an era that beckons us all to adapt to the realities of our times. Youth have a leading role to play in our efforts to change and adapt to these realities. Your exchanges in this forum will inform the high-level political forum on sustainable development in July and beyond. I wish you a productive 2 days and look forward to hearing about the important outcomes of your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that very inspiring talk, based on I think the great wisdom and leadership that you're showing in this year of your presidency. I'm now going to invite the Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, Dr. Felipe Paulier, to address the forum on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Felipe, you have the floor.
Good morning to everyone. I will deliver my remarks both in English and Spanish, and I want to start by thanking the President of the Economic and Social Council, the President of the General Assembly, to thank Omaima for her powerful works on behalf of the Mayor Group of Children and Youth, and also to thank Lota and on Lota, all the team that has been working very closely from the Department of Economic and Social Affairs to bring all of us together. And thank you also, the Secretary, for supporting us during this first part of this forum. But I want especially to thank all of you for being here, for choosing to be here in this room. And welcome to this 2025 ECOSOC Youth Forum. Today, I speak to you with gratitude, but also with a deep sense of responsibility on my capacity as the first United Nations Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs. And I hope that I have the chance not only to give and to share some reflections in relation to hope, but also what is more important, which is a call to action. As all of us look around this room, I think we are all clear that we are seeing the faces of change. Young people from every corner of the world who refuse to accept the status quo. You are here because you know that the challenges we face cannot be solved without you. You feel the urgency. You understand the complexity of our times. And you understand that also this complexity demands us intersectional solutions, co-created and driven by the diversity of youth voices. Because in this diversity is where we are able to bring all the different and powerful lived experiences and realities. This room is filled with hundreds of young people in person, and many more are joining us virtually from across the globe. Your presence here speaks a lot, but it also speaks the absence of those who could not be here due to visa restrictions, due to structural barriers, or because they live in regions plagued by conflict. From Gaza to Sudan, to Yemen, to Myanmar, to Ukraine, we must acknowledge a a very painful truth. We are living in a world experiencing more conflict than at any point since the Second World War. The SDGs are off track. The planet is degrading at an alarming pace due to human actions. And allow me to be also reflective about that we are witnessing a global crisis of trust in institutions. And we cannot blame those who feel let down. The future ahead, especially for your generation, is deeply uncertain. And we, as institutions, we have failed on many fronts. But yet, despite every reason not to, you are here. You did not give up. You choose to show up. You choose to invest your time, your voice, your energy in multilateralism. You came to claim accountability. You came to build solidarity. You came because you believe we can and we must do better. Just a few months ago, world leaders gathered here at the United Nations to endorse the Pact for the Future. To our government representatives in the room, I call on you to uphold the commitments you made under the Pact of the Future. This pact is much more than a political document. It's a renewed promise to young people and to future generations. It's a renewed promise that meaningful youth participation will be at the heart of decision-making processes. And it's a renewed commitment for this to keep it going forward. We must not allow these commitments to fade into silence. Now, more than ever, we must deliver on our promises. Youth engagement is not just about inclusion. It's about improving decision-making. It's about rebuilding trust in institutions. It's about protecting the rights of young people and fulfilling our collective public responsibility. Queridos y queridas jóvenes,
dear youths, distinguished delegates here at the forum, I'd like to wrap up by launching an urgent appeal to those that are making decisions. As the president of ECOSOC said, this is the meeting where we have the highest number of youth delegates from different countries in history. So to change history, to change the course of the world, thousands and thousands of futures compromised, dreams stuck in their tracks. So our institutions, like the United Nations, need to change. We need to transform our structures. We need to allocate the resources required and demonstrate with facts our preparedness to work in true collaboration with young people. Given my responsibility and in our office, in the Office for Youth Affairs at the United Nations, in us you'll always find an ally to drive forward these changes. It doesn't always mean we'll always be able to say yes. However, you can certainly count on people who are prepared to be there at the table to help find solutions together. So to all of the youth delegates here in this space, we really hope that these days will live up to your expectations. We really hope that you'll be able to engage in real dialogue, to listen, to build, to raise your voices and to share your concerns. However, above all, to build alliances, to bring the responses that will lead us closer to a more sustainable and just world, but above all, a world in peace. Today, more than ever, we really hope that this forum will be one where we're not just hearing empty words, but where the future will depend on the decisions we'll make today. So we really hope that this will be a possibility for you to make lots of friends and new allies with whom we can change this reality. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Philippe, pour le discours.
Thank you very much, Felipe, for that very passionate and very sensible speech and full of commitments as well. with the work that you're doing. So we thank you very much for that speech this morning. Now, dear friends, I'm going to briefly suspend our meeting to enable the President of the General Assembly and other distinguished guests to take their leave, and for us to rearrange the podium for the conversation on the next topic, which is youth-led solutions for a resilient future. Please remain seated while we change the podium.
The podium, and we will be, as they say, we will be right back. So just sit still for this. Thank you.
I'm so sorry for the phone. You're fine. I figured out how to switch it up. So done. I did.
Let's see. Yes. Yes.
Hello. How are you? So good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Have you met the panelists?
No, like I couldn't.
Yeah.
Hello.
So good to have you. Yeah.
To see you too.
Great remarks.
How are you? All how are you? To see you.
Okay, Sam,
Hi, you guys.
stay right there.
Okay.
Good to see you too. Well, I need to go.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to.
No, you follow the timer. I know you can make it.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Good. Hi.
I think we're ready again. If I could ask everyone to take their seats, please. I know there's a lot of excitement and desire to continue chatting, but if you could please take your seats, it would be much appreciated. No, don't turn it off. Okay, I'm going to ask one more time, this time a little less politely. I don't want to crack the mallet. It's a good sign that the reason that some people are milling around still is because there are not enough seats to accommodate everyone. And it's also a good sign that the reason we can't accommodate everyone is because we have so many young people, as I said, and so many ministers. But I would ask that everyone, take the time to listen carefully. And once again, I'm welcoming Dr. Felipe Paulier, who's the Assistant Secretary General for Youth, as well as the other distinguished speakers. We're now going to have a moderated conversation on youth-led solutions for a resilient future, which is really a continuation of our opening. We're going to be joined by Maria Teresa Pereira, who's the technology focal point at the Youth Science Policy Interface Platform of the Major Group for Children and Youth. Mr. Yoon Beck, who's the founder of Youth for Privacy. Sarah Nagazzi, who's a representative of the Young World Federation of Public Health Associations Initiative. And Ms. Christina Williams, who is a member of the UNESCO SDG 4 Youth and Student Network Executive Committee. I'm also welcoming Saru Duckworth, who's the Next Generation Fellow for Jobs and Economic Opportunities at the UN Foundation, who will be the moderator of this interactive dialogue. So Sarah, if I could turn it over to you, and I'll shut up for now, and you just take over. That's fine. You're in charge. You run the show.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. Excellencies, young leaders, it's so nice to be here with you and be here to moderate today's session on youth-led solutions for a resilient future, the solutions that we need so urgently. I don't know about any of you, but when I was a kid, not too long ago, I loved to draw. It was all that I did. I would draw these pictures of the future. There would be flying cars and cities in the sky. There would be talking animals everywhere. Everything was made out of ice cream, which I still think would be amazing if we can figure that out. But I didn't know how any of that was going to work. I had no idea about the technology that it would take to make it happen. And it wasn't the point, right? The drawings were all about possibility and about imagining a world that was radically different than the one that I was living in. And I think a lot of us lose that instinct to imagine as we get older, especially because the crises around us demand such constant attention and reaction. But imagination is not a distraction. Imagination is a strategy and a necessary first step to building something new. And that's why what today's session is about. It's about beginning with imagining what we want to build and what we want our legacy to be, as I think Umaima put it so beautifully. We're meeting right now, I don't have to tell you, in a moment of incredibly profound complexity. Young people are navigating historic levels of unemployment, economic crises, live-streamed atrocities and genocide of our fellow children and young people, the impacts of an accelerating climate crisis, and a rapidly changing technological landscape that threatens to leave many behind. But we are also at the forefront of innovation in every one of these spaces. From climate tech to digital rights, to public health and peace building, to gender equality and meaningful youth engagement. We're not a problem to be solved. We're the early adopters, we're the designers, the leaders, and the problem solvers of this century. So I'm thrilled to be joined today by 5 remarkable leaders who are each at the forefront of innovation with and for young people. They need no introduction. So to ground today's conversation, we're going to use a method called backcasting, which comes from strategic foresight. So instead of starting with the problems of today, which are many, we'll begin with a long-term vision. What kind of world do we want to live in by the end of this century, the year 2100, when a child born today will be 75 years old, reaching the end of a long and full life? What kind of world will they have left for future generations? From there, we're going to work backwards, identifying the transformative shifts that need to happen in the decades up to that, and the urgent actions that we have to take by 2030. Because the future does not just happen on its own, it's something that we each continually build in every moment, in every choice. And true inclusion means thinking about not just who's here in the room today, but also about the generations that are going to inherit that world that we build. So I want to just kick us off with a very quick, inspiring, energizing exercise. In one word, what should the world look like in 2100? I want to start with you, Felipe, if you can kick us off. Difficult.
Peaceful.
Peaceful, absolutely. Christina, what about you?
Transformative.
Transformative, amazing. Sarah?
Healthier.
Healthier, yes. June?
Dignity.
Dignity. And Maria Teresa, last but not least.
Harmony.
Amazing. Okay, these powerful words, I'm feeling the energy. I want to take us from vision to action. How do we actually make that world come true? What does justice, inclusion, health, what do all these things look like in a world that are shaped by all the crises that we're living in now? The climate crisis, conflict and fragility, and digital transformation. Christina, let's start with you. What does true justice and inclusion look like for young people who are living in fragile and climate-affected states in 2100?
Thank you, Saru, and good morning, everyone. So I think it's such an important question given our current context and where we want to go. And I believe for us to have true just and inclusive societies, we have to move beyond development for survival and development for liberation. And what does that mean? It means that we have to move from the conversation. When we consider education and employment, we focus a lot on the 250 million children out of school, which is important. But when will we get to that point where we're looking at education as lifelong learning, education that creates individuals that are socially aware and socially responsible? Because imagine if all education systems could fulfill that, then what we would see is a reduction, if not a complete non-existence of all the wars, the conflicts, and the crises that we see. If we move away from the consideration of employment about whether or not you have a job as a young person, we know that 20% of those between 15 to 24 are not in education, not in employment, or not in training. But when we move beyond that very basic consideration of thinking about, well, when I'm employed, I can afford housing, I can afford insurance, I'm compensated well, I have good mental work-life balance, we're seeing that we're moving from concepts of survival to liberation. Gender justice, we're moving from just thinking about gender-sensitive and even gender-responsive systems to gender-transformative systems. For digital inclusion, we're moving from just thinking about being connected, but ensuring that there's actual inclusive and equitable access. So I think if we move beyond the systems of can we just move from the basic requirements of our societies to actually liberating our societies across the world, that's when we'll have truly inclusive and truly just societies.
Amazing. Moving beyond development for survival to liberation. I think that resonates with all of us here in the room. Maria Teresa, over to you. In 2100, what would inclusive climate tech look like in your sector? And how did we magically avoid the pitfalls of a digitally divided future at the end of the century?
Thank you, Saru. I acknowledge all of the other panelists, whom I'm eager to discuss, and all the other attendees, but especially the youth attendees. Your fiery pursuit of a better future is so inspiring and so important. So thank you for making this forum that much more meaningful. So can we give it up for youth again? Right now, we face a stark reality where climate tech development is predominantly driven by wealthy nations and corporations, with youth and marginalized communities systematically excluded from meaningful decision-making. As a tech researcher and AI PhD student, I see how diverse teams enhance progress and discovery. Brilliant perspectives are lost because the table itself remains inaccessible to many. This is a priority for us at the Science Policy Interface Youth Platform within the major group of children and youth. Today's digital divide is not just about access to technology, but about who has the power to shape it. Climate monitoring systems are being designed without input from the communities most affected by climate change. AI systems guiding adaptation strategies are trained on datasets that underrepresent marginalized experiences. Meanwhile, we're seeing alarming trends of targeted science defunding precisely when we need it the most and when diverse perspectives are needed in research. The technology literacy challenges we face today will only intensify if we continue down this path. Many young people from marginalized groups like LGBTI or indigenous community or climate vulnerable regions do have smartphones and internet devices, but they lack the educational opportunities to move beyond being technology users to being technology creators. They often also find themselves in digitally unsafe environments or victims of cyber physical oppression. This creates a dangerous cycle where tomorrow's climate solutions reflect the biases and blind spots of homogeneous development teams. So by 2100, we can and must achieve a fundamentally different reality. We envision a world where inclusive climate and tech emerges from truly collaborative innovation ecosystems. Getting there requires immediate action. We must resist current trends of science defunding and instead invest in building technological capacity in marginalized communities. We need to create meaningful pathways for youth participation in technology governance beyond tokenistic representation. Intergenerational dialogue is essential to make sure no one is left behind. We are, as was said before, the leaders of today, so 2100 needs to start now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Felipe, I want to end with you here. Do you think that youth participation and more engagement, meaningful engagement, as it exists today is enough to get us to these inspiring futures that Maria Teresa and Christina have outlined? Or what needs to change between now and then?
So the answer to that question is no. Which doesn't mean we haven't made a lot of progress in the last years, you know. But the truth is that if we really want to achieve, you know, what Maria and Christina were really sharing, you know, there's a lot more to transform, you know. I think that, you know, this panel, you know, these young, brilliant minds, you know, scientists, you know, advocates, are a reflection of why it's so crucial to shape the future and the decisions we take today with young people, you know. But, you know, I know this space is a lot about hope, but it's also true that as we are all here and as we're having this highest participation of young people in a space, multilateralism is under attack. You know? Let's be very clear about that. And as the Secretary General reminded us, in these challenging times, the UN, the United Nations values are more necessary than ever. You know? Our values have never been more relevant than at this point of history. But it doesn't mean we don't need to change. And I think this is the crucial part, you know. I mentioned it in my opening remarks. We really need institutions that are not afraid to work hand in hand with young people. We constantly talk about mistrust of young people with institutions. But you know, trust is it's a bilateral process. It's not about only one part of the picture. We need institutions that trust in young people. And these kind of spaces are really about that, are really about building that space, shaping, reshaping these structures, you know. But for me, what this concretely means, you know, I answer you shortly, and my answer is no. I think it's the current scenario is not really responding to the demands and the expectations of 50% of the population, you know. If we consider those under 30, it's 50% of the demographics of the world, you know. And of course, this is especially more clear in certain regions of the world, you know. So what is the changes we reflect, you know, and we need, you know? It's about, first, challenging and transforming social and cultural beliefs that continue to portray young people as inexperienced or unfit to make decisions. You know, these young persons in this room, and I'm sure this room is full of many of you that also are outstanding, you know, in any of your areas of development, is a clear example of that cultural change we need to bring. But let's be clear, this is still a problem at many decision-making levels. We also need to provide more and adequate and flexible, accessible funding for the specific needs of young people, you know. Not only to participate in platforms, to develop, you know, so we can really shape the way of looking at development as Christina was proposing. And I think that another third part is about taking affirmative action that ensure that meaningful youth participation is granted and continue to advance. So that's my reflections.
No, I think that was crystal clear. Moving forward with values at the center, closing divides, moving to liberation. I think that is a fascinating look at where we could be by the end of the century and hopefully sooner. And you've given us some indication of the waypoints along the way. And I want to keep this momentum going to nearer term action. What do we have to get right in the immediate term, you know, by the year, say 2050, 25 years, to stay on track to these visions? And June, I'm going to take it to you as one of the experts that Felipe was just talking about, of many in this room. What would a secure, ethical, global AI system look like in 2050? And how can youth organize right now to influence the foundations of that system?
Thank you very much. Our organization, Youth for Privacy, does workshops around the world focusing on responsible and privacy-focused AI. And one of the questions I ask at the beginning of workshops is, what do you think what an ethical AI looks like? And of course, ethics varies around countries and cultures. Yet one consistent answer that I've seen is dignity for the human agency. Dignity for human agency. It means that they want ethical AI as an AI that doesn't, that respects human agency, but not harms it. Think about a case when you're applying to a job, for example. You apply to a job, and then like 10 minutes later, you get a rejection notice. You don't know what happened, but suppose that they used AI to filter out candidates. If you use AI that does not respect human dignity and agency, then that is an unethical AI. Or think about like entry-level jobs that AI might replace. By using AI to replace workers, it's actually going to reduce our economic opportunity for young people. That is taking away our human agency. So what are the ways that we can maybe like go against this like reduction of human agency by AI systems? Well, I think for young people, one of the key powers that we have is that actually they redrive culture. In the past, culture has been dictated by kings and queens, by fashion magazine editors, by newspapers. But now in the digital age, culture is shaped by young people. Think about how young people drive internet culture. I think that our ability to dictate and shape what society thinks about technology, about internet, and about AI is a powerful tool that we could use to organize ourselves to reject those kind of futures, those kind of versions of future that takes away our human agency. So I think that is like one way that we could use our youthful power in determining what is cool or not, what is cringe or not. Those are like funny concepts, but actually if you think about it, those are powerful social capital that we have as young people. And I think that we could use them for better good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. We have incredible power and we forget this sometimes. And I think that was an inspiring call to action for all of us. I want to hear from you, Sarah. I'm hearing so many points of alignment in this room, and I'm sure you'll be the same. You'll be more of the same. What public health innovations or social resilience strategies? We just heard maybe about the private sector. What about the public sector? What should be scaled globally for 2050?
Thank you, Saru, and hello, everybody. Lovely to see so many young people here. So when I first heard your question, a lot of thoughts flew to my mind, but I want to focus on 3 main points and hopefully leave it to my other colleagues in the other sessions, like SDG 3 sessions, to reflect on the rest. But the first thing that comes to my mind is digital health technologies. So that is the first thing that is very promising, nowadays. And I feel that what we need to do currently is more into addressing the gaps in delivering digital health services. And maybe me being from the Global South, the first thing that I could reflect on is equity and the digital divide, as it has been mentioned earlier by the President and also my colleagues here. I'm very excited when I read in the article in the news, for instance, being a pharmacist by training, I see a lot of talking about the 3D printing, for instance, how much it could bring to the medical devices industry. But then I can't stop, or I can't help it, but ask myself, will I ever get to see that? Probably, or if I want to be hopeful, maybe in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. But if I want to be realistic, then maybe never, just because there's still digital divide and there's still a long way to go for us to address it. And the second point that I could think of in terms of scaling up is something that happened recently, which is the pandemic. For me, it's still recent, it's still stuck in my mind. And what I think we should scale up is the global public health surveillance systems, which could also be done with the help of AI, like my colleague June has just mentioned. And there's currently, maybe for those of you who know the INB and the negotiations on the pandemic accord at the WHO, which I think is very, very crucial, and it is one step forward and towards avoiding the scenario that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the third point, which is the dearest to my heart, is the necessity to connect SDG 3 to the other SDGs. We have 17 goals, but all of them are very, very connected. And many times I feel that health is left behind, although it is somehow connected to all the other sectors. And I feel there's great, great potential if we work together instead of working in silos. So just to wrap this up, innovation is great, but the need for collaboration is greater. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think that deserves a round. I'm struck so much by the concrete solutions that each one of the younger experts on this panel have brought. All require trust, that Felipe highlighted so beautifully. AI ethics, dignity and health coordination, economic inclusion, all of these things are going to require trust. And trust starts with people. After all, institutions, these systems, they're all made up of individuals. And maybe that's where we start when systems seem too complex, too big to make a difference as an individual. So I want to, zoom in even closer. We've seen the foundations. We've seen where we're going. How do we get there? What can young people do today to steer towards that future? So everybody, for a final round, I'd really like to hear what is one action that young people can take now to push us towards our long-term goals in the areas you've mentioned, particularly by 2030 to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Felipe, maybe I'll start with you.
So I will respond not on those things that young people need, but institutions we need to do, And if I have to say, I think that we, within the United Nations, we need to put the Pact of the Future into action, and specifically all the actions in relation to youth participation and their meaningful inclusion. I think that's part of the opportunities we face when it's about really having institutions that are not more trust, but are more efficient in addressing the current challenges our world is facing.
Thank you so much. Maybe over to you, Christina. One action that young people can take today to get towards your best future.
Okay, so there's so many actions, but the one that I'd focus on today is I feel as if as young people, we do spend a lot of time lobbying our governments, which is so important. They're the ones that develop and implement those important policies and programs. But today I would ask you, I'm talking to you right now and to myself, that I think we need to spend a little bit more time lobbying the private sector. And not in the way that you'd expect about traditional investment. I am talking about tax justice. Globally, US 30 billion, repeating, billion dollars have been lost to tax havens, which accounts for 41 million young people being out of school. And when we consider that 50% of the world's economic growth for the last 3 decades is because of education, and we're losing tons of billions of dollars because private sector is being protected by our local governments, we need, as young people, to be lobbying for governments to hold private sector accountable, private sector to hold themselves accountable. And when we get those taxes, that is actually being used to fund the social services initiatives in a sustainable, equitable, and intergenerational way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sarah, over to you. One action.
Thank you again. So one action, if I must choose one, is to define our common goals and where we want to head, where we want to go. We have a lot in common. We don't maybe realize it. And another thing that we should do along with that is to work in interdisciplinary approach and to have intergenerational dialogue. That is very lacking currently, in my opinion. And one last thing is to stay curious and speaking to my colleagues, young people who are in the room, always believe in your potential and the great things that you can do, no matter what you will hear, no matter the hardships, just keep going. And yeah, I want to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. June, we'll go to you next for your one action.
I think I talked about agency earlier, and I think that what you could do is take agency within your communities. I talked about like privacy, data privacy when it comes to AI systems. You could also have conversations about those within your communities. I know that people here are leaders within your local young community, so have a conversation in your, like, for example, student club on what is the acceptable use of AI within your student club. You know, maybe it's okay to use AI to create social media content, but would you use AI for application purposes when you have new members in your club? Those are conversations. By having those kind of conversations and guidelines about ethical AI use, you could start having agency within your community. And by having, like, starting small, you could have those kind of bigger sense of agency, not only in your clubs and schools and communities, but also in your country and in the world. So I think you could get started with your community first. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Teresa, last word from you.
I wanted to thank Felipe and others who have spoken for their transparency and for acknowledging that through the status quo, we are not on the way to the world that we want to see. I mean, we focused our discussion on 2100, not 2030, because those goals seem kind of unachievable by that deadline. And yes, we can commiserate and be let down by this failure, but this is not what the youth does. We stay moving. We keep pushing forward, creating and leveraging any opportunities. As was said, building trust, shaping culture, fostering liberation. So don't put your arms down, find community. This room is full of inspiring leaders who are fighting the same fight. We are the youth, we stay moving. Thank you.
Yes. And it's so important, I think, as many have highlighted, not to lose those really tangible, concrete actions that we've highlighted in the 2030 agenda. Keep them moving forward, implement the Pact for the Future fully, because 2100 is right around the corner and people are counting on us. I think we do have time actually for a quick final round. I want to ask you each, because you're so inspiring, because you're experts in your own fields, and can help, you know, the other experts in the room just through partnership and inspiration. What are you personally working on next to build this future? Maybe I'll start with you, Sarah.
I want to say that one personal goal that I decided I want to keep doing for the rest of my life is to keep supporting youth and meaningful youth engagement no matter what. I know that a lot has changed since 2019 until now in a good way, but there's still a lot of things that need to be done. And just like me, maybe many of you could take it on them to keep supporting youth and speaking for young people, no matter where they go, no matter where their career take them, no matter the sector they work in. I would like to still hear from the other sectors, work with them, and always support youth, no matter my age, no matter where I am in the world. Thank you.
Incredible. I hope we all can do the same. Christina.
What I'd hope my personal legacy to be is that I would have helped to move the agenda beyond meaningful youth participation. I feel as if I want to get beyond that eventually. We're not there, we're not even at that point yet, but I'd love for us to move beyond that. I want us to get to a place where, through my work and the work of everyone here as well, that we achieve a world where we're not just wanting young people to come to a consultation, but we're now talking about young political leaders and more senior officials. We love to have Felipe, but we want more Felipes through all of the UN system and the other international organizations. And the young people, when they show up with their activism, they're compensated, they're funded, and they're protected legally. And I feel like that is where we need to get, and what I hope my legacy will contribute to.
Thank you so much. More Felipes, yes, absolutely. June, over to you. What are you working on next to build that future?
I think that I want to also continue this movement one way or another, and realize that as we get older, as we have gray hairs, we also need to create places for young people as well. This is a room full of young people, young leaders, but I also want to make a pledge that in 20, 30 years, when we're maybe the ones running these kind of organizations, we also want to create bigger spaces for young people so that we are not the ones, for example, kicking down the ladder or anything, but so that more young people get involved in it. Where surprisingly, a lot of the established politicians were young people as well. So I think that we just want to have a more ladder for more people to climb up along with us. So that's my personal work.
Amazing. Maria Teresa?
What's been on my mind is science defunding and how that's heightening the challenge of access and inclusion to education and educational resources. Educational is foundational to the world we want to see. Everyone deserves dignified access to it, so we cannot stay compliant. So I would encourage people to do what is in your power to provide opportunities, bring attention to injustices, because it does make a difference.
Thank you. Felipe, the final word to you. What are you doing next to build this future?
Thank you, and thank you for your kind words. But allow me also, the establishment of the Youth Office, the establishment of the role of an Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, that I have the responsibility to take for some years, and then I'm sure someone much better than me will come. It's really about not representing youth voices. I've said this at multiple levels, but I think it's very important because it's an institutional response from an institutional space and a political will of all the member states in these organizations to really accelerate and catalyze this agenda. So I think what we are trying to do constantly is convening people, It's convening also the diversity of the youth space, and we need to be much more cohesive. Allow me to say it also very loudly, There's many people doing many amazing things across the world, sometimes not coordinating among each other, And that's actually what we're trying to do with our office. And that's why we are launching this year a new flagship initiative called the United Nations Youth Compass, with the intention to bring together different groups of people, different networks of people, that we are all fighting for the same causes, with the same values, to collaborate more and better, And the only way of doing this, it's also with the institutional presence, So it's this presence, the president of ECOSOC here, not speaking, listening to you guys. It's member states and ministers in this room also taking that active role, And it's through that intergenerational process that we are really being able to shape and to transform the barriers we've been facing, but are barriers that we've been facing for 30 years, you know. If we go to the World of Program of Action on Youth, 30 years back, many of the barriers we are here highlighting were described and were agreed 30 years back. So I think it's about how we collaborate more, how we trust more among each other, and this is about all of our responsibility, you know. And I hope, and that's what we're trying to do, and my team is trying to do in the UN Youth Office.
Thank you so much for that work with and on behalf of youth. I think I couldn't have said it better. Collaborate more, trust more, all share a common compass and know the direction and the future that we're moving towards together. And we've navigated that future and the waypoints along the way and the transformative concrete actions now to 2030 in just under an hour here. We've heard about the risks of a digitally divided world, the promises of technology to connect rather than exclude, that youth participation needs to evolve from just symbolic presence to actual structural power. I think Christina put that beautifully. And we've seen that inclusion, real inclusion, has to extend beyond identities, but actually across time, recognizing the future generations that will inherit what we all here decide to do. As I reflect on this conversation, I'm reminded of my childhood drawings, the future that was messy, colorful, wildly optimistic. They weren't accurate, but they were aspirational, and I think that's the spirit we need now, buffered by that realism, that vision, that clarity of purpose, and the values that we always need to keep at the center to defend that vision. Because the long-term vision, you know, is a privilege and it's also a responsibility, keeping us focused not only on what we're reacting to, but also what we're reaching for, all of us here in this room. So I'll just close with this. What is one action that each of you can take today, in the next 5 years, in the next 20 years, that somebody in the year 2100 will look back and say, thank you. You did right by me. You protected me. And to the young people here who are the future of science, of technology, of public health, or of true inclusion, these things don't just begin someday. They begin right now and with all of you and with all of us here. So thank you so much. And with that, we'll end the session, and I'll pass it back to the president.
The speakers for really the very, very valuable thoughts and for just telling it like it is and also presenting ideas and thoughts. And I think, Sarah, you deserve such a strong congratulations from me and from all of us for your skillful guidance of this discussion. But before we turn to the next session, I hope you will forgive me if I say a couple of things, because I have been listening very carefully, and I think that the message that I'm hearing is, if I may say so, it's not necessarily a new one, but it is based very profoundly on the reality that we need to think longer term, and we need to think about future generations. And the Pact for the Future is an agenda that starts now, but it's also an agenda that asks us to change how we behave in such a way that we're thinking more consequentially about what we're doing and less impulsively about what we're doing. We live in a world of impulse. We live in a world where we're constantly looking at our phones, and our phones are asking us to respond quickly and impulsively to an email or a message or a suggestion about something to buy or something to do or something to watch. And that world of impulse makes us think very short term. And we all know, notoriously, we all do really stupid things because we're not thinking. We're just acting impulsively. Some of you are nodding your heads knowingly. You should all be nodding knowingly. Tell me one of you who has not done that. And so I really think that one of the things that we need to appreciate is that in many cultures, there is this deep sense of the continuity of things, and there is a sense of the consequence of things. All great religions have produced ways forward, guides to behavior, ethics. What's that based on? It's based on the common experience that tends to say, look, if you think slightly more longer term, maybe you won't be tempted by that stupid thing you were thinking of doing because it has consequences. And we have learned that in the collective wisdom of our people. It was a conservative thinker in the 18th century who said about a social contract, which sometimes the Secretary General refers to. But Edmund Burke said, what is the social contract? It's a contract between those who have died, those who are living, and those who are yet to be born. In Indigenous cultures in Canada, we talk about 7 generations thinking. What does that mean? It means you're going back 7 generations to think about what your elders were teaching you, and you're going forward 7 generations to think about what are the consequences of the steps that we take. Those are wise things. And what that also means is that, as I said earlier on, we can't wait for you. When I started, somebody said, there were some people, I mean, I was young once. I know my grandchildren say, oh, come on, Papa, come on, get real. No, I was young once. And I started running for Parliament when I was 28 years old. And when I got to Parliament, there were many people who said, wait your turn, sit back, go to the back and wait. And I said, no. And in fact, it was one of the oldest members of Parliament came up to me and says, if they tell you to sit down and wait, do not sit down and wait. And actually, he was much more blunt than that. And I think it's really important that you hear this from me now, just to say exactly the same thing to me. You do not have a lane in life, and you do not have a time that you have to wait for. Your time is now, and your lane is wherever you choose to be in. That is your lane. And that's how we make progress, not by people waiting their turn, and not by people simply deferring to others, but by all of us standing up and doing what we need to do to make change happen, not just for tomorrow, but for 7 generations away. And that's, I hope, a reflection of some of what I've been hearing for others about why it's so important for us to change the way our institutions work so we build these concepts into what we're doing, and why Felipe's leadership is so important. But what we have to do is extend the Youth Forum to everything the United Nations does, everything our businesses do, to think in a different way about how we can learn from our collective history, but how we can also take the steps that we need to take to make change happen. So we're going to pause briefly. My colleague from Nepal is going to be replacing me in the chair for the next session. It's going to be on SDG 3, as we all know, on health, which we've been talking about already, adolescents and youth in a digital world. So please, once again, try to reduce your milling around and chatting to a minimum while we move the forum around and add some new people. And Ambassador Thapa, I give the floor, the chair to you, and look forward. And I'll be back this afternoon for the session this afternoon. Thank you very, very much for being here.
Hello, how are you?
Il me montre l'iPad. L'iPad avec les member states. No worries. Super.
Okay, but Daniela was not participating. It was just a D.
So, Deanne from UN. So you're only here. Okay, so Deanne is coming.
Hi, you're with UNFPA?
Yes.
Okay, great. So DD is coming.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Amazing. And we have.
We're updating it live. As we discussed, so after you get to member states,
We're gonna.
It didn't update live. Okay.
But I think it's good. So after we have no more youth, we open it to the floor.
Yeah. So no. Okay, just updated. Maybe it's just issue. So once you get here, because once you get below ministers, in any case you don't need to read these. So it'll just be distinguished representative of Egypt.
Okay.
But is this okay? So you won't skip them, right? By mistake?
No, it's all good. But thank you
Because
for
it's
pointing
not
it
the
out,
best-
because
yeah,
otherwise
it's
I
not
would have
the
been
best-
up.
No, it's not the best. It's not the most intuitive layout.
Deanne. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President. Alors, elle est dans le building. Diane, elle est dans le building, donc elle devrait arriver. Thank you, Your Excellency. Kate. Welcome to youth.
Distinguished delegates, hello. Still. Good morning. So many people. Can I speak? Still not. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, young leaders, the forum now begins its plenary sessions entitled SDG 3, Navigating Health, Adolescents and Youth in a Digital World. And it is my pleasure to welcome the distinguished speakers. Mrs. Diana Keita, Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director for Program at the United Nations Population Fund, who is on the way, and Mr. Rahman Hassan, Youth Expert, WHO Youth Council Steering Committee Member, Act for Food Youth Leader, and Advisor and Consultant for various UN and governmental agencies. I'm also pleased to welcome Madam Kate Doko, Public Health Medical Resident at Hospice Civil the Lion Association of European Cancer Leagues and 2024 Vice President of the European Network of Medical Residents in Public Health, who will be the moderator of this interactive dialogue. And now I invite her to conduct the discussion.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, for this very kind introduction. Welcome, everybody, permanent missions, delegations, UN agency leaders, and welcome to youth. My name is Kane Doko. I serve within the WHO Youth Council, which is a WHO engagement platform to empower and activate youth leaders globally. And I will act as your moderator for this session. Our session will dig deep. It will dig deep into the duality of digital health systems. Because on the one hand, digital health systems offer us with the opportunity to improve efficient and access to care. But on the other hand, as we listened in the previous panels, they also present the risk of perpetrating harm and deepening existing inequalities. Recognizing this, we held a global consultation on the Sparkbook platform ahead of our plenary. This online dialogue provided a space for young people to reflect on their digital health priorities, but also an opportunity for them to shape a collective youth global agenda on the question. We, the people in the room where it's happening, we are the lucky few. And through sharing the results of that consultations, we're attempting to make sure that the voices of the ones that are not physically present with us today do not go unheard and unlistened to. When asked, how do you safeguard in this new digital era the health of young people, this is what they had to say. First, power to the collective. Vulnerable communities experience harassment more than any other online. To combat that effectively, youth demanded ethical oversights of the system. They demanded including algorithm audits, data transparency, regulation of content loops, and mental health assessments and support. It's not just about what happens to you online, it's also the silence when you ask for help. Second, capacitate. Digital health literacy is supposed to be a core competency that is taught to school and children and adolescents from early adolescence. Third, agency. Again, nothing for us without us. One participant said, and I quote, "We don't want you to hide the internet from us. We want to know how to navigate it safely and to have a say in how it is built." Fourth, and this is my favorite one, fourth, it's equity. Equity is a word that certain countries right now are banning us from using, but we're going to shout it just louder. Say it with me. Equity. 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 Platforms need to be designed with local languages and cultural context in mind and rendered accessible and inclusive to all of youth, including youth living with disabilities. Digital health is not a luxury innovation. It is a public good. And if it doesn't reach the most marginalized, it isn't working. And to embody that, I can't think of a better person than Marina Al-Kawan, founder of Medonation and Forbes 30 Under 30. She will share with us how digitalization has shaped her advocacy and personal journey in safeguarding access to life-saving medicines. Marina, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, dear change makers, lifesavers, and hope creators, that's how I see you all here in this room, everyone watching and everyone fighting in the name of youth and creating the change. I'll take you back to 2020. August 11, 2020, and after a week of Beirut's explosion, that was the day that shaped my entire life. The city was in ruins. Sirens were still echoing. Hospitals were collapsing under pressure. And patients and people were dying not just because of injuries, but because of lack of their essential chronic medications. That day I met our first patient, an old lady in her 70s, dying because of lack of her inhaler. She couldn't find it. She couldn't access it, and she couldn't find any sort of support because the need wasn't targeting the exact need, and the help wasn't reaching the people in need. So what I did, I couldn't find the medication in all pharmacies. It was out of stock. Imagine living in a country where chronic medication isn't available. How can you do it? And here we're fighting with minutes. We don't have the privilege of hours. We don't have days. A heartbeat cannot wait. A breath cannot wait. So the patient will die. I only had one phone. That's all what I had. So I posted an Instagram story, which is a call to help. It was a digital cry into the void, hoping and praying that someone will find the medication and send it on time. And after 2 hours, a stranger calls me. After 2 hours, they secured a 12-box of this inhaler, and you were able to save this lady's life just on time. That day, Donations was born, a community that transformed healthcare assistance and medication access in Lebanon and beyond. We have saved 20,000 lives in Lebanon and secured and mobilized the community of youth and the human beings, more than 2,500 donors in 65 countries across all continents, just by the power of digital platforms. Since then, the journey has started. We use social media to find the need and to map needs. We use data to track shortages. We built AI systems to fasten the whole process. Because the future of healthcare is not just in hospitals. It's not just in clinics. It's not just in the hands of doctors or healthcare professionals or companies. It's in our hands. And it starts yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now in 2025, we're launching our first free health tech clinic inside Lebanon, powered by AI solutions, digital tools, latest technologies and innovations to give for free, fairly, and equally all human beings across the country and beyond the right to health they deserve. This is what digitalization means to me. It's not efficiency, it's not just efficiency, it's not just innovation, it's resistance, resilience, and radical care. And to everyone and all leaders here, and change makers, as I called you, when your world collapses, Do not wait for someone to fix it. Use what you have. Use what you know. Learn what you don't know. And use who you are and where you are to create the change. Because one tool, one post, one click can truly save a life. And one idea can build a system. And one voice, which is your voice, and one tangible, concrete action, which is your action, and our actions united can truly save the future of humanity. The future of digital healthcare starts now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina, for this impactful story. I don't know if you don't feel motivated after that, I don't know what will. And we will now move forward to our intergenerational dialogue. Thank you so much for being here, Diane and Riman. Diane Kita, she is the Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director of UNFPA, which is a program of the United Nations Population Fund. Her career spans over 3 decades. She served as Minister for Cooperation and African Integration with the Republic of Guinea, and she has worked extensively within UNFPA and UNDP on the empowerment of women, of youth, inclusive growth, sustainable human development, and gender-based violence in humanitarian settings. Diane, thank you for joining us today. She's accompanied by Riman Hassan, a digital health young policy leader who helped develop One Young People Want, which is a campaign that engaged 1.5 million youth to shape digital health priorities and drive policy commitments across 100 countries. With experience at WHO, PAHO, and USAID, he has influenced global digital health governance, co-authoring the AI in Global Development Playbook, and developing ethical frameworks for emerging technologies. Riman, thank you deeply for joining us. And Riman, if you don't mind, let me start with you. You're young, incredibly young, 19, and are really brilliant. And you're already engaged in conversations around youth health through the WHO Youth Council and other organizations. Could you share a bit more about your experience navigating health information online, and how does that work truly intersect between protecting young people from the young age to the harms that digital spaces can create?
Thank you so much, Kate, for such a wonderful question. I think I'll start off with a little story. I was 15 when I learned that disaster doesn't knock, it floods in. We lost power, we lost water, we lost heat, and we lost our sense of humanity. And for a while, we didn't even know where we would get food. I remember sitting there in the dark, the air thick and poisoned with carbon monoxide, a smell that no one can ever forget, with my phone barely holding on at 4% of charge. Amid all of this, I turned to my phone, not for escape, but for answers. What should I do? I remember typing in, how long can you go without accessing food? How cold is too cold? And how much exposure to carbon monoxide can one person handle? In the middle of a climate disaster, I was searching for answers on health, on food systems, on survival. And the internet, something that I had grown up my entire life with, was absent. Without power or cell service, I was surrounded by questions, confusion, pain, and suffering, and I didn't know what to do or how I should do it. That moment stuck with me because in crises, whether it's a flood, a pandemic, or the quiet crisis of poverty, your access to health is not related just to a hospital. It's about the very structures that surround your well-being. It's about the digital divide. It's about mis and disinformation. It's about education and who listens to you. And in that moment, the worst thing that I felt was feeling alone, like no one cared what I wanted. And that feeling is really what has led to a lot of my work related to transforming systems that shape our well-being. So one way that I did this was with the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health, which hosted the 1.8 billion campaign. And as a co-leader of our digital committee, we built a chatbot that talked to 1.5 million young people, primarily in the Global South, on their health needs. We asked them directly, what do you want and what do you need? And what we heard was powerful. young people talked about how rising food costs meant that they were skipping meals, that a lack of digital access made them invisible to their governments, and that climate change wasn't something abstract. It was found in their coughs, in their headaches, and in their school shutting down. That's the beauty of the digital space. It can mirror if you let it reflect who's actually there. But, and this is a really big but, the same tools that can connect us can be weaponized against us. That's why I don't just talk about equity in the digital space. I work across institutions to help fight it. Before receiving a termination letter from Elon Musk, I was at USAID helping write the Biden administration's policy on AI in global context, making sure that ethical design was not just a footnote. At the WHO, at the Youth Council specifically, we're working to center young people at all possible levels, helping them really be designers of global health policy, something that we're especially trying to promote in the upcoming pandemic agreement. So trying to build digital spaces where young people are more than users, they're leaders, they're storytellers, and they're the designers. And if that sounds idealistic, I think that's good. I think we need more ideals. I think we need to dream up a digital future where survival doesn't depend on an algorithm and where no young person has to search online for how to stay alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riemann. And as you said, what is co-created is long-lasting. And building on what Riemann just said, Diane, one of the areas in digital spaces that can be both powerful but also extremely problematic is regarding sexual and reproductive health and rights. Misinformation can spread tremendously quickly and have life-threatening consequences. Would you be able to provide us with a bit more insight as to what UNFPA is doing on that topic? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished delegates. I think I would like to start exactly where you left us up, the power to the collectivity. Nothing for us without us. And equity, but I will change equity by inclusiveness. And what Riemann said that for me is very powerful in this space is education and who is listening. We know that the digital sphere is a double sword space for young people. They work on it, they have good in it, but yet it can be a very dangerous space as well if you're not very well mastered. So I'm going to give few examples of what we do around the world instead of being a lecturing. Let's say in Ethiopia, we have launched a voice-based platform that reaches young people with disability who don't have access to internet or smartphone. It allows them to access audio content on SRHR information. And since 2021, it received over 200,000 calls. In Tunisia, we support the creation of podcasts on radio and TikTok, breaking taboos and becoming the first regular program on FM radio to openly discuss sexuality-related topics. In Nigeria, we partnered with UNESCO to launch an online learning platform offering accessible, youth-friendly CSC content across the country. And in the state of Palestine, the Majid app provides a private and inclusive space for young people to access sexuality education, helping break down social and cultural barriers. I want to mention those because the world is very different for where you sit, where people have their basic education. But there is something that's very important I really would like us to focus on, and education and who is listening. You have several generations of young people. Today, the smart life, the AI, artificial intelligence, start from 8-year-old to 100-year-old. So the generation need to teach each other with the right language and the right way of accessing the smartphone and the AI. That's very important. When I say intergeneration, among the youth generations first. Please teach what you have learned for the younger generations. And education is who is listening. I need the older young people as well to teach their parent, their big brother and sister, for them to understand the real meaning of going online and not being part of sharing the bad news or the bad info. Because for me, that will make a difference for all of us, and that will make us use exactly those platforms, exactly the way Rayman and all his generation is doing. I'll stop there, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. And I think you mentioned very important topics. You mentioned success stories. We're not just here to share challenges, we're also here to share the success stories and the impact stories that are being done on the ground. And you also mentioned the power of youth to educate. You mentioned that we're not homogeneous, and that's really important. There is diversity within youth, and also there is education to be done by youth, not just as beneficiaries, but also as teachers. Thank you so much. And Riman, you mentioned in your story how it is difficult sometimes to balance this equilibrium between digital engagements, but also the risk that the digital space provides. So I had a question for you on that. In your specific context, regarding AI and new emerging technologies, because you mentioned that you were working that for the Biden administration, what exactly are some significant issues and some significant solutions, if you can share that with us, that you can find on that topic?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it's really important to note the context of emerging technologies and technology more broadly. So whoever said that technology itself is neutral was lying. Technology is never neutral. It's built by people, it's designed with our values, it's trained on patterns, and it's shaped fundamentally by power, whether that be the power of the designer, the power of the funder, the power of the coder. And if we're not careful, the systems that we built can simply just reflect the same inequalities that we already live in. So only faster, quieter, and sometimes harder to trace, because AI and other technologies are really insidious. And I saw this firsthand while working with an NGO that was building an AI model to identify the youth really left behind by educational contexts. And what we found was unfortunately disturbing, but not surprising in any way. The algorithm repeatedly misclassified experiences of distress from female, trans, and non-binary youth. Why? Because their pain looked different, because their words didn't necessarily match the training data that the AI model used, because their lived realities had never been part of the machine's learning in the first place. And so if you're not seen by the system, you're not served by the system. And that's the risk, that AI and digital systems more broadly start to determine who gets care, who gets protection, and who gets heard, and also who gets left out. But I don't think the answer to that is throwing up our hands and walking away. I think the answer is fundamentally to redesign the system, to reclaim the tools. I'm part of a generation that was always told, be careful what you post online. But maybe the real message should be bold about what you build online. So yes, I work on policy. I've helped written executive orders that have not been rescinded just yet, and crafted commitments to youth engagement with the G7, the G20, the UN, and OECD. But what I care most about is not necessarily the policy documents or the policy commitments, it's the people that they affect and the people that they engage with. And what gives me hope is all the communities who I see using technology in radically beautiful ways. I think we heard from UNFPA some of the wonderful uses of technology. We've also seen youth advocates in Latin America actually use AI to detect harmful gold mining that harms indigenous populations in the Amazon. We've also seen African youth leaders build open source models to defend their languages and actually promote better journalism in their contexts. And that really is the digital space that I believe in. But to make that world, I really think we need to talk about the stakes. We have to ask, who is being automated out of the conversation, and who gets to design the data, and who do these technologies actually serve? I don't want a future where AI makes all the decisions that even it can't explain. I want a future where communities, especially the most marginalized, can shape the digital systems that we interact with, not just shaped by them. And so how do we navigate this question of navigating the tension between opportunity and risk? And I think ultimately we start by refusing this idea of inevitability. I think we start by asking better questions and listening to inconvenient answers. And I think we start by embedding care into code. And maybe most importantly, we start by trusting the young people in our audience. Because if you want to build systems that serve the future, you need to co-create it with the people who will live in that future. And trust me, we young people are definitely ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Riemann. A very powerful call to action for everybody in the room and beyond. And finally, Diane, one of the more troubling risks that we see with AI and technology as a whole is the rise of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. This affects too many girls and young women in the world. And could you share some insights and tell us about the work that UNFPA is doing to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence and support survivors in that space? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. And please, I'm going to use what Riemann said again, education, and please listen. Before I say what UNFPA does, I really want people to understand what TG is, technical-based GBV. We know that young people are digital natives. They grew up with the internet and use it to form relationships, build communities, and access critical and sometimes life-saving information and services. But because of the major role technology plays in young people's life, it is also increasingly being used as a weapon to perpetrate violence and create new avenues for abuse. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence, or TFGBV, takes many forms, from image-based abuse and sextortion to doxing, cyberstalking, and gendered online harassment. It is crucial to recognize that this is not an isolated form of violence, but rather takes place on a continuum that can escalate from the offline to the online world and vice versa. This has devastating psychological and emotional consequences for the survivor of TFGBV. What doesn't help is the increasing availability, affordability, and accessibility to generating harmful content. For example, generative artificial intelligence is frequently used to create synthetic imagery or deepfake. What used to require highly sophisticated software is now readily accessible across cheap and free apps and platforms. This disturbing trend is infiltrating classrooms. We have been seeing various stories about students using Gen AI to create explicit synthetic image of their peers without their consent. The lack of regulation and safeguard in place and the inaction we are seeing from tech platforms is exacerbating the problem. This is just one example I would like to give you. And this is not about only young women and women. It affects boys equally as well. It normalizes violence against women, fuels online harassment, and distorts boys' understanding of healthy relationships. At UNFPA, we are committed to creating a safer and more inclusive digital future for all, particularly for all young people. Through our programs, such as Making All Space Safe and Empower ED, we work to prevent harm and empower young people with digital literacy. It's so important. We also actively engage with the tech industry to promote the development of safer and more inclusive digital platforms and spotlight innovation that prioritize user safety and privacy. That's so important, as seen in our recent safety showcase. Reimagine gender in tech. And finally, we believe that tackling technology-facilitated GBV requires breaking silos and building bridges, not only across sector and industry, but across generation, one more time, across generation. I thank you.
Thank you both so much for joining us today and for this very important intergenerational dialogue. And we will now take some intervention from member states and advocates. So just a few ground rules to make sure that this goes well. Phones needs to be made silent. And for those of you speaking today, please keep your intervention extremely short. You will have no more than 2 minutes, and this time is really strict. And last but not least, we're here to facilitate a peaceful and healthier world, the peaceful and healthier world we want to live in. So if any remark includes hate speech, harassment, or intimidation, it will not be tolerated. Thank you all. And without further ado, I invite Your Excellency, Alisher Sadulov, Minister for Youth Affairs of Uzbekistan, to take the floor. You have 2 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum, honorable delegates, young leaders of the world. Almost 7 years ago, I vividly remember myself now speaking in this hall as a youth activist, now as the youngest senator and youth minister of Uzbekistan, with 37 million population, 60% of which are young people. It's a true honor to speak on behalf of the youth of Uzbekistan, a generation driven by purpose to building a healthier, more inclusive future. Young people today face evolving health challenges, from mental health struggles and lifestyle-related illnesses to widespread misinformation and limited access to youth-friendly services. These challenges are real, but together we can overcome them. Uzbekistan's youth are stepping up. We are using digital tools to raise awareness, challenge stigma, and support one another. To support this growing movement, the President of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Shavkat Mirziyoyev, has launched a national fund to empower content creators, AI enthusiasts, creative economy members, innovators in educational and employment programs targeting youth unemployment and creating more useful content on the internet. But policies alone aren't enough. Real solutions begin with real dialogue. That's why our leadership is committed to ongoing engagement with young people, listening to our concerns, and including us in shaping the future we want. Digital platforms give us unprecedented reach, but with that comes huge responsibility. We must ensure that the spaces we build are inclusive, informed, and impactful. To grow this movement, we call for continued investment in digital literacy, wide internet access, and safe spaces for learning and leadership.
Thank you so much, distinguished representative. The mic cut off, but thank you so much. And you mentioned that it's really important to finance also this digital divide gap. And now we're going to hear from Mrs. Kunda Mitwa from Grassroots Soccer. The floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, my name is Kunda Mwitwa. I work for Grassroots Soccer, an adolescent health organization that leverages on the power of sport to equip young people with life-saving information, mentorship, and the services they need to live healthy lives, and also representative of the WHO Youth Council. So, as you all may know, there are a number of challenges that adolescents and young people face in Zambia and Africa at large. In sub-Saharan Africa, 1 out of every 4 adolescents experiences poor mental health challenges. While social media offers connectivity, it also brings unique stressors, cyberbullying, and peer pressure. But at Grassroots Soccer, we've cracked the code. What is the intervention? Using the power of soccer to equip young people and learn about mental health in a fun and exciting way, breaking the stigma in mental health. Our approach is simple yet profound, empowering the youth with knowledge, encouraging health social media use, and providing mentorship that supports both their mental and their physical being. And in addition to some of our in-person programming, we are using the power of digital media through radio, podcasts, and influencers to amplify these messages and reach young people where they are. Together, we are breaking down the stigma around mental health, fostering conversations that matter, and creating a generation of young leaders who are equipped to face challenges of today and tomorrow and not afraid to use social media. The journey has just begun. With all the support in this room and with the member states, we can continue to provide a lasting impact and using the Grassroots Soccer approach. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kunda. And now I will give the floor to Your Excellency Chumnea Sarai, Secretary of State, Minister of Education, Youth and Sports of Cambodia.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I am very delighted to be here to address the essential topic, youth and health. a policy implementer and avocado for youth implement, we have witnessed incredible potential within young people. However, we also see the challenges they face in safeguarding their health, both physically and mentally. In Cambodia, youth development is an important agenda of the royal government. We have made significant strides in strengthening our health education system. Mental education in the Buddhist way play a significant role in shaping the social and emotional development of individuals in Cambodia. Frequently, students are taught on mental and emotional education. On the top of that, the ministry organized training on youth mental well-being with the aim of sharing knowledge and experience among young individuals, helping them to understand strategy to address life challenges peacefully. Cambodia also focused on promoting inclusive sport participation in encouraging physical activity for all through initiative. One youth play at least one sport in life, campaigning to improve health, education balance, and prevent youth crime. In this matter, our national curriculum now includes the subject of health education and the comprehensive sexuality education as a key component. Youth is the greatest investment and the powerful agent of change in society, capable of making significant progress in various fields. They bring fresh perspective, energy, and innovative ideas that can lead to transformative change. Your health is our future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and you said it best. Youth is our best return on investment. And now we're going to hear from Grace Huertas from IFMSA.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Grace Huertas, a junior doctor from Peru and the vice president for members of the International Federation of Medical Students Associations, representing over 1.5 million medical students in more than 120 countries. Last month, the State of Digital Health 2024 brief was published, which showed that only 13% of countries have fully implemented digital health curricula in healthcare education. This means most future healthcare workers lack the necessary training to address young people's health needs in digital spaces. As you heard today in the previous sessions, we are growing up in a digital health era, shaping our health behaviors, identities, and access to healthcare. Digital platforms offer opportunities for education and connection, but they also pose risks. Misinformation, anxiety, and social isolation are now critical determinants for adolescents and youth mental health. However, if designed with equity, safety, and human rights as the foundation, digital health has the potential to be transformative. It can help advance universal health coverage, reduce health disparities, and provide marginalized youth access to healthcare where traditional systems have often failed. And we believe you are also health advocates because, yes, youth are already innovating and taking action. At IFMSA, we are using our platforms to inform and engage through global health campaigns on social media, raising awareness, promoting healthy behaviors, and combating misinformation. So what we need now is investment, collaboration, and the integration of youth-led solutions into health systems, and we must start with education. Together, we can make digital health a force for equity and a powerful tool to help us move closer to achieving health equity for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace, by highlighting again that everything starts with education. And now I will give the floor to Her Excellency Ivana Antonijevic, Assistant Minister for Youth at the Ministry of Tourism and Youth of Serbia.
Delegates and colleagues, it's my honor to address you today on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism and Youth of the Republic of Serbia. We are aware that health is not just a sectorial issue. It is a very foundation for a productive, inclusive, and resilient society. In Serbia, our strategic framework, the youth strategy for the period 2023-2030, recognizes the health and well-being of young people as one of the 5 core pillars. This includes not only physical health, but also mental, emotional, and social well-being. We firmly believe that no health policy is complete without youth voices. A key priority for us is mental health, which has emerged globally as one of the most pressing issues for young people. In response, we have taken coordinated cross-sectorial actions. In 2023, our ministry signed a memorandum of understanding with UNICEF and 5 other ministries in the government of Republic of Serbia, committing to a long-term sustainable partnership to strengthen mental health services and support systems for young people all around our country. Building on this, in 2024, we launched a dedicated public call focused on the youth mental health, awarding funding to the flagship national program titled We Are Here. This initiative brings together leading youth umbrella organizations with local institutions united in efforts to provide community-based mental health services. So far, this program has delivered impressive results. Over 120 peer educators are trained and active in their communities. Partnerships between civil society organizations that are dealing with youth and secondary schools are established. Local youth workers are engaged in municipalities, and national mental health awareness campaign that has already reached more than 650,000.
Thank you so much. And you were mentioning cross-sectoral work, and it also echoes intersectionality. And we just received from the Mentimeter someone highlighting also the need for mental health, but for mental health for migrant population, which is often overlooked. So thank you so much for sharing this. And now we're going to hear from another youth delegate, Emmanuel Ohiri. Please, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, youth of the world, my name is Emmanuel Ohiri, and I work with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, as well as the New York City Youth Agenda Coalition. We engage with the city government and community-based organizations to shape youth-centered public policy. I co-chair our mental health policy efforts, and I oversee the full spectrum of youth well-being in physical and digital spaces. I don't have much time today, but I want to convey that mental health isn't just about therapy. It's also about material conditions like stable housing, quality education, economic opportunity, and safe environments. In the citywide surveys that I've conducted, frequently one of the top stressors that youth reports is their own and their family's ability to afford and access basic services. I've said this before in UN fora, but mental health, in my view, is health a priori. The World Health Organization reminds us as much. They define it as a state of well-being that enables people to cope, realize their potential, and contribute in society. If we accept that definition, mental health ought to be a design principle in all of our design development strategies, in all of its dimensions and all of its levels. The digital world is increasingly part of that design. It offers promise through telehealth, AI, and social platforms. But as we heard from the panel, it also presents risks. As the digital world increases, we must capitalize on the connectivity benefits, adapting our development to support youth where they are, both through clinical support, but also through quality of life improvements like digital literacy programs linking to SDG 4 on quality education. So whether it's SDG 4, SDG 8 on decent work, SDG 11 on sustainable cities, none of it is sustainable if individuals and communities are not cared and provided for. Mental health is the bedrock, and without it, we are not only failing our collective health, but we are also failing development.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And you just stretch out the particular pivotal role of creating, protecting, and healthy protecting environments. And I think that echoes, again, one of the insights that was shared in our Mentimeter, where someone mentioned, again, that young people have the right to participate in the digital world, but also to be protected from harmful ads, from food and beverages, and that there has been an increase since 2022 and even before of global food ad spending on social media. So this is also about creating a healthy environment or healthy promoting environment in person, but also online. And now we're going to hear from the distinguished representative of Hungary, Mrs. Anna Maria Weinstein. The floor is yours.
Esteemed Chair, distinguished delegates. Today I bring to your attention a critical challenge that affects both the future and the present of young people, our mental health. In many regions, armed conflicts severely undermine mental health, leaving young people vulnerable. In such circumstances, digital spaces can serve as crucial sources of support. Conversely, in this age of hyperconnection,
constant exposure to harmful online content can also lead to rising levels of anxiety, stress, shorter attention spans, and severe mental health issues. In my workshops across Hungary, me and my team engaged with over 700 young people who shared their struggles with anxiety and cyberbullying. One student described a deeply distressing incident involving the circulation of deep-fake explicit images of fellow school children. Young community leaders expressed frustration that many peers choose endless phone scrolling over engaging in in-person events, making it hard to build meaningful real-world interactions. Despite the superficial comfort digital platforms can offer, they often rob us, young people, of genuine human interaction. To further understand this issue, we conducted a survey with over 500 young respondents. The results are shocking. 32 identified themselves as phone addicts, and 18% admitted they cannot resist using their phones during study time. These figures confirm that the harmful effects of digital distractions are widespread and demand urgent action. In response, Hungary has taken a bold step by limiting personal smartphone use in schools. This initiative is not about rejecting technology, but about creating dedicated spaces where young minds can flourish through authentic human connections, creative learning, and shared experiences. I urge this assembly to recognize not only the right of young persons to access digital spaces, but also their right to healthy distraction-free and non-virtual childhood.
Thank you so much, distinguished representative of Hungary. And you emphasize the importance of genuine human connection, and this is exactly what we're doing here. And you also highlighted, I think, something that is really important, which is the intersection of addictions, mental health, and digital spaces. Thank you so much for that. And now we're going to hear from one of our youth delegate, Yash Tadimala, from the Youth Science Policy Interface Platform. Yash, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon and due respects. My name is Yash Tadimala, and I am speaking as the global focal point of the Youth Science Policy Interface Platform, a mandated youth constituency to ensure that young people are not just engaged, but embedded in the global tech governance spaces like the SDI Forum, the UN data and AI process like the WSIS, IGF, and the Global Digital Compact. The digital health landscape is an urgent space that has seen rapid evolution over the last decade. As tech companies, institutions, funders, and governance bodies develop policies for these complex and ubiquitous health technologies, they need to ask themselves, are we building with children and youth or for them? Let me be clear. Young people are already building solutions. LGBTI plus youth are developing online SRHR communities to navigate care in hostile environments. Youth feminist advocacy groups are championing digital mental health campaigns to support teens targeted by harmful content algorithms. These are not just pilots, these are lifelines. Yet our involvement in AI and technology governance so far has been tokenistic. So here's what we call for. Recognize youth-led work as governance contributions. We need mechanisms that formally embed youth into decision-making on AI, data privacy, and algorithmic accountability, especially when these technologies are affecting body image, reproductive autonomy, and mental health. Youth groups are burning out trying to fight misinformation, navigate social media, facilitated gender violence, and advocating at global forums on their own dime. We need sustained support and resources, not just one-time inclusion interventions. An intersectional approach is crucial to digital health equity, and we need to move from inclusion to influence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yash. And what you're stretching out is also through the need of intersectionality, the need of funding, because that creates sustainability for the different topics that you mentioned, sexual and reproductive health and rights, mental health, infectious disease, and NCDs. And now we're going to hear from the distinguished representative of Thailand. The floor is yours.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, it is a great privilege to address you today on behalf of Thai youth. Health is a foundation of our lives, our communities, and our ability to drive positive changes. Thailand has long been pressed for its inclusive healthcare system. Our universal health coverage ensures that over 99% of our population has access to essential health services. This success has improved health services and health education. However, in many parts of the world, challenges still remain. Mental health struggles persist due to stigma and a lack of youth-centered support, and reproductive health awareness is still lacking in many communities. To overcome this, youth must be the center of health transformation, facilitated by technology and digital health effort. First, localization. Youth-driven community health initiative must be integrated into national and local policy. I, myself, am a youth advocate and a founder of Chiang Mai Pink October, a breast cancer awareness initiative for young people. Moreover, investing in youth leadership program will empower young changemakers to advocate for sustainable healthcare reforms. Lastly, a strong collaboration between government, civil society, and a youth organization is crucial to creating systematic change. The future of our health is not just about system and policy, it is about people. It is about us who can shape a world where no one is left behind. Let us rise to this challenge together, not just as a beneficiary, but as an active agent of change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that and for remembering and highlighting that youth is at the center and that they're the biggest return on investment if we want to make sustainable changes. And now we're going to hear from another one of our youth delegate, Leonardo Bolstag from DTH Lab. The floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou. Hello everyone, my name is Leonardo Bolstad and I'm here representing the Digital Transformations for Health Lab as the Regional Youth Champion of Australia, New Zealand and Oceania. DTH Lab is a global consortium dedicated to value-based digital transformation for health, co-created with young people. A core part of our work is co-creating digital-first health systems, where digital platforms become the primary point of contact with healthcare, underpinning health promotion, prevention, and delivery. Since 2022, we've collaborated with over 300 young people from over 80 countries to develop a blueprint for designing digital-first health systems. We launched a global report in 2024 and a forthcoming report where we will share regional-level findings. There are three main findings I would like to share with you today. First, regardless of region, youth believe that the top health priority areas that digital-first health systems should address are mental health and sexual and reproductive health. Second, youth universally agree that these systems must be underpinned by a value-based approach to health that is grounded in human rights, that they must be equitable, trustworthy, humanistic, ethical, and inclusive. Lastly, these systems should offer knowledge building, personalized services, user-friendly tools, and must be interconnected to build a sense of community. Most importantly, though, the lab will launch a blueprint for digital-first health systems in 2026, offering guidance for policymakers and tech companies. We invite you all to engage with this blueprint as we work together to co-create digital health futures that truly serve the needs and aspirations of young people and are rooted in human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonardo. And you mentioned one thing that I really like is the value-based health systems. And I think that echoes one of the things that we just received in the Mentimeters, which is one of the important topics and one of the important challenges that some youth are facing today is living in conflict-related zones. And their health should be written in policies and regulation that support human well-being overall, and therefore cannot be bolder or changed depending on the setting. And now we're going to hear from the distinguished representative of Mexico, Mrs. Maria Fernanda. You have 2 minutes.
Gracias, señor presidente. México reafirma.
Thank you. Mexico reaffirms that the right to health is a fundamental pillar of human dignity, an essential condition for building just and equal societies. With almost a third of our population now made up by youth, we recognize their role as key agents of social, economic and cultural transformation. It's therefore essential to ensure that youth are able to access comprehensive self-services that enable us to fully develop and to age with well-being, laying the foundations for future generations that are more healthy. Chair, Mexico was a pioneer in developing a human development index with a focus on youth that measures access to health, education and income among people between the ages of 12 and 29. I'd also like to underscore the Living Healthy and Living Happy government programme that promotes healthy habits among young people in schools in the country, fostering balanced diets, physical activity, self-care, with a goal of preventing illnesses such as obesity and improving general well-being. We have also driven forward robust policies in sexual and reproductive health with an intersectoral and culturally relevant focus. The Programme of Action 2020 to 2024 promotes access to contraception, prevention of teenage pregnancies, menstrual health and the use of scientific information for informed decision-making. What's more, we've made progress in mental health, prevention of addiction and safe access to abortion with innovative initiatives such as I Decide and Together for Peace. We're seeking a country where youth live free from violence with access to information, safe spaces and real opportunities. Chair, investing in the health of youth is guaranteeing a more just, resilient and sustainable future for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and for reiterating the need to safeguard certain rights, like for example, the right to safe abortion, the right to engage meaningfully, and the right to not be exposed to addiction. Thank you so much. And I will give the floor to Dr. Sonia Cafe. She's originally from Suriname, and she has been working for PAHO for more than 20 years in the areas of HIV and STIs. For the past 10 years, she has been serving as PAHO Regional Adolescents Health Advisor in Washington, D.C. Dr. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, esteemed youth delegates. It's really a privilege to be in this room together with so many youth leaders and powerhouses and to say some words on behalf of the World Health Organization. From the start, at the launch of the SDGs, the Secretary General emphasized that young people are central to achievement of the SDG targets. While for WHO, SDG 3 and the SDG 3 targets are key, we also recognize that they are interrelated and the interconnectiveness of all the SDGs. Just for example, SDG 4 also prioritized in this youth forum, education, SDG 5, gender. These are all social determinants of the health of all, the health of young people. They're intimately linked, and therefore, we have to see them as a whole. The global strategy for women's, children, and adolescent health highlights actions that can be taken in the context of the SDGs for the health of women, children, and adolescents, and summarized in 3 words: survive, thrive, transform. Unfortunately, we have a lot of work to do in all 3 areas. Too many young people die due to preventable causes and are not provided with the resources and support they need to develop to their full potential, in other words, to thrive. The topic that we are highlighting also in this forum, digital health, is critical to all 3: survive, thrive, transform. And as WHO, we are committed to work together with young people, with member states, to maximize the benefit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonia. Thank you. And you repeated multiple times the 3 words: survive, thrive, and transform. And in this current context of constricted resources, WHO's work is crucial now more than ever. And this is also why, before we jump to more intervention, we ask you to raise your index fingers for the $1 One World campaign from WHO. I will turn around and I will want all the index fingers raised to the sky, saying collectively in the face of gloom and doom and global uncertainty that we stand up and we stand tall in solidarity in safeguarding the world's health. Please stand up, and I will all the index finger raised for the selfie. survive, thrive, and transform. And then it's also you, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we're going to go back to our intervention with His Excellency, Mr. Matthew Vella, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, Sport and Youth, Research and Innovation from Malta. The floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, youth delegates, every day we take a decision. Either we exist or we work for transformation. Placing youth at the center of SDG 3 is not only about meeting our needs today, but building health systems that remain relevant, responsive, and resilient for generations to come. We must address mental health challenges. We must deal with substance abuse and obesity, same as we do with physical health concerns. In Malta, our approach to youth health is evolving to meet these realities. We are committed to a holistic model, one that recognizes not just the absence of illness, but the presence of well-being and connection. In my opinion, multi-sectoral collaboration is essential for achieving SDG 3. Education is contributing to health by promoting health literacy, mental health awareness, and physical well-being. We strongly believe that integrated pathways between public service, voluntary organizations, and the private sectors are the way forward, such as developing family community schooling programs to create a comprehensive environment that supports the emotional and physical health of youths and their families. In Malta, we share the vision of the UN Youth Strategy 2030 and whose agenda on adolescence and health. Malta supports UN Youth Delegation Program because we believe that young people should be actively involved to shape the policies of today and the future. We envision a 2030 where every young person can thrive both physically and mentally. Today, we can build a future where youth lead together healthy lives and contribute meaningful progress across all SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for that thriving to happen, we really need to destigmatize mental health. And we're going to take interventions from the floor, from youth, Natalia Del Monte from Family Planning. The floor is yours. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I am Natalia de Leonteo, Communications and Youth Coordinator for Family Planning 2030 in Latin America and the Caribbean. I am originally from Quetzaltenango, Guatemala. In Guatemala, between 2018 to 2024, 14,969 girls aged 10 to 14 gave birth to children. Children giving birth to children should disturb us and move us to action. Girl and teenage pregnancies remain a rampant issue, not only in Guatemala, but in all of Latin America. I imagine a 2030 where this is no longer a reality. My vision for the world in 2030 is one where every young person has access to comprehensive sexual and reproductive health services, education, and rights. A world where no child is forced into motherhood due to lack of education, access to contraception, or gender inequality. Sexual and reproductive health and rights are essential to achieving the SDGs, particularly in eradicating poverty, ensuring health and well-being, ensuring quality education, achieving gender equality, and reducing inequalities. When young people have access to comprehensive SRHR services, they can make informed decisions about their futures, complete their education, and participate fully in economic and social life. I imagine a 2030 where the voices of young people, especially those from rural, indigenous, and underserved communities, are central in shaping policies and programs. I envision a world where youth leadership is valued and young advocates are driving the change they wish to see. By creating platforms for young advocates to share their stories, engaging in advocacy, and building connections, we should aim to foster a more inclusive approach to SRHR, ensuring that all young persons can make informed decisions about their health and future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia. And now we're going to hear from a distinguished representative from Slovenia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Honorable delegates, we've all heard of the saying, mens sana in corpore sano, but neither the body nor the mind of our society are healthy. As Slovenia's youth delegate, I unfortunately have to highlight the pressing mental health crisis among young Slovenians. Recent studies reveal alarming levels of anxiety, chronic stress, and profound loneliness among our youth. These conditions are exacerbated by persistent economic instability, precarious working conditions, and severe housing shortages, leaving many young Slovenians uncertain and anxious about their futures. Combined with social media-related incidents, Slovenia is currently facing a suicide crisis amongst teenagers, especially young girls. This has led our capital's clinical center to open a wing specifically for suicide attempt survivors, which we are proud to present as an excellent and very successful practice. Yet amidst these difficulties, we witness encouraging shifts. Our youth display a rising commitment to health awareness, to physical activity, and active cultural participation, which is spearheaded by our civil society organizations, like the National Youth Council of Slovenia, our extremely successful sports people, and folklore societies. However, individual initiative alone cannot address systemic issues, though they are good examples which we can build on. The student-organized blood donations, conferences on employment and housing, as well as the support shown by each and every individual is what we need to learn from and build upon. From this, we can bring forth what we urgently need: comprehensive policies, sustained mental health support, and robust social infrastructure, as well as policies which will tackle the root causes and not just the symptoms. In addressing these challenges, we will not only support the individual health of our young people, but fortify the social fabric necessary for a common, sustainable, and healthy future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we were going to hear from our youth interventionist, Sonal Gupta from Cyberport Foundation. Sonal, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sonal Gupta, the founder of Cyberport Foundation and Project Green and Garbage India. Cyberport, a youth-led initiative working at the intersection of cybersecurity, digital wellness, and youth mental health, we run workshops and campaigns across India and advocate for digital rights, green hygiene, and mindful tech use. We believe, with average screen time exceeding 7 hours a day, we are facing a silent epidemic of cyberbullying, digital burnout, online addiction, and sleep deprivation, all of which directly impact the health and mental health resilience of adolescents. As we talk about mental health, it's important to understand the gap in awareness of digital rights, understanding that many people are not even aware of their identities as netizens, understanding how societal norms and taboos impact women who often are more susceptible to online harassment and blame themselves for being harassed online. It's imperative for us to delve into the social aspect of it. Let's be clear, it's not just a tech issue, it's a mental health crisis in making. We believe youth are not just passive users, we are digital architects. And to support that vision, I propose the launch of cyber guardian clubs in schools and colleges worldwide, much like the Girl Up Clubs initiative. Safe youth-led spaces where students can A, learn how to build a healthy digital diet, B, combat the mental health impact of aggressive gaming, C, overcome the loneliness epidemic and the social media FOMO, nurturing self-esteem and digital resilience. Let's also begin cyber education from the age of 6 to 7, making responsible tech use second nature. And most importantly, let's acknowledge that cybersecurity, especially for women and LGBTQ youth, and those who often suffer in silence and due to digital crimes. I urge you all to take proactive action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonal, and again for highlighting the need for safeguarding and more protective measures against cybersecurity and also more transparency regarding data usage and data protection. We're now going to hear from our distinguished representative from Saudi Arabia, Mrs. Shahad Al-Akili. The floor is yours.
الله الرحمن الرحيم سيد الرئيس الحضور الكريم.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, may the peace of God be upon you. I'm Shalat Al-Daili, and I'm honoured to represent my country on behalf of Saudi Arabia here at the ECOSOC Youth Forum. In the Kingdom, we're convinced that investing in youth and health and investing in future is important, and we're delighted to be here again at ECOSOC as a member. This is a precious opportunity to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, but in particular SDG 3 on health and prosperity. The Kingdom is deploying comprehensive efforts on a domestic and international level. On the domestic level, in 2024, the Kingdom devoted 17% of its budget to health. We've established more than 3,000 centres and hospitals in several regions of the country. In October, our virtual hospital was in the Guinness Book of Records as the biggest virtual hospital in the world, and we also have primary healthcare as part of the Family Doctors Programme. And for youth health, we have a campaign that has been launched with schools and other centres. We've also supported women's sport, and we've established the first fund of its type that's providing maternity leave up to 12 months. Through the King Salman Centre for Emergency Support, we've provided medical assistance to the tune of more than $7 billion in 100 states, and we are participating in the UN Population Fund and working with the WHO to support health initiatives. And this goes hand in hand with our 2030 vision that seeks to show an example in our kingdom for health and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Al-Akhili. And now we're going to hear from the youth delegate from Suriname, your distinguished representative. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, moderator. Health is not just the absence of disease. It is the foundation of freedom, opportunity, and peace. I am Drusilla Reinhard Blinker, and this is Amrish Lalsa. We are the SDG Youth Ambassadors of Suriname. Health is wealth is a cliché saying often used without realizing its importance until a loved one is ill. We live in a world of paradoxes. We have cutting-edge medicine, digital health, and global campaigns. Yet millions still lack access to basic care, mental health support, and safe environments. Recent data on mental health issues amongst young people is particularly alarming. In Suriname, youth often face stigma around mental health issues, and they also deal with insufficient sexual education and limited healthcare services. We believe that intergenerational exchange of experience and knowledge is crucial. Governments and the private sector must invest in prevention and treatment while using existing programs and institutions like schools, civil society organizations, and sport clubs.
Youth are change makers. In Suriname, we are working on improving sexual and reproductive health, education, promoting mental health awarenesses, and creating platforms for youth voices in health policy. We have seen how local action can ripple into national change. The global community must invest in youth-led health initiatives, prioritize mental health, strengthen community-based health systems. SDG 3 must be the heartbeat of our action to achieve the 2030 agenda. Let us be the generation that doesn't just heal, but transforms.
Thank you so much. And now I'm going to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Tunisia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Coordinator. Young leaders of the world, it's such a pleasure, and it's always inspiring to have your energy at the UN. Youth, health, and well-being are essential pillars of Tunisia's development strategy. We remain fully committed to SDG 3, recognizing both physical and mental health, our vital foundations for inclusive growth, civic engagement, and resilience. Our national policies prioritize universal healthcare access, adolescent-friendly services, and digital literacy to address the health challenges linked to social media and the digital sphere. We place particular focus on adolescent girls who face compounded risks and barriers, including gender-based violence. Tunisia has adopted a robust legal framework to combat such violence and ensure that young survivors have access to health services, psychosocial support, and protection mechanisms. Tunisia also reaffirms its unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people. As part of our humanitarian commitment, we have opened our hospitals to receive and treat injured Palestinians, especially children and youth, whose right to health is being gravely undermined. Finally, we emphasize that the right to development includes the right of developing countries to enjoy good health. We call for enhanced cooperation to strengthen public health systems through the fair transfer of technology, knowledge, and innovation. Only through solidarity and equity can we truly advance the health and rights of all youth, girls, and boys. To all young leaders here today, your voices matter. Your health matters, and your Leadership is essential. Keep pushing for the future you believe in, because we, Tunisia, we strong.
Thank you so much, distinguished representative of Tunisia. And we're going to go with the distinguished representative from Croatia, Mrs. Ivana Konškol. The floor is yours. If Mrs. Ivana is not in the room.
I am
Okay.
here.
Perfect.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, physical and mental health enable young persons to achieve their full potential and enjoy life in dignity. Unfortunately, many still face barriers to healthcare access, financial insecurity, lack of information, and health-related stigma and discrimination. Global crises not only exacerbate existing vulnerabilities, but also reduce the capacity of states to invest in all health areas. These multiple challenges require innovative and creative solutions that can help us deliver on our commitment from the Pact for the Future to support youth, including through enhanced health, education, and social protection. Science-based approach contributes significantly to improving human health. Through evidence and disaggregated data collection, it helps to deliver more cost-effective healthcare, providing us with the tools to develop treatments and technologies that save lives. However, to ensure more sustainable and lasting impact, science needs to be supported by inclusive policies in all contexts, including post-conflict and fragile situations. We need to ensure that young persons are equipped with the right tools, such as education and access to information, to bridge digital divides and foster equal participation in both developing and implementing evidence-based solutions. Youth-centered policies are also highly beneficial for promoting social inclusion and reducing health-related stigma. For this reason, in Croatia's national youth program, health is one of the main sectors where policies for stronger youth engagement are put in place. To effectively enhance our efforts in achieving SDGs, prioritizing health must come first. Policies that rely on partnerships with youth and all relevant stakeholders strengthen the positive impact of science on youth health and well-being. It is therefore our responsibility to put forward these sustainable strategies to build healthy, inclusive, and resilient societies for us and the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from the distinguished representative from Egypt. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Global youth, attendees, participants, colleagues, Egypt welcomes the opportunity to engage in this important forum, and we, as a youthful country with 60% of our population under the age of 30, we attach immense importance to the deliberations on the empowerment of youth and ensuring that they engage in and benefit from development. This is why we have embarked upon numerous programs that aim to advance youth participation across multiple fields in Egypt, including skills acquirement, training, and employment in the executive and legislative branches, and political participation. In addition to economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, particularly in SMEs, housing, education, and healthcare, where we have increased public spending to more than 320 billion Egyptian pounds this fiscal year. But in the limited time we have, and given the theme of this session today, I wish to share the following reflections on the needed global efforts to achieve SDG 3. We need to invest more to end the pandemics that affect societies and hinder youth from fully contributing to their societies. From AIDS to TB to malaria and others, global ambition must continue to be higher to achieve SDG 3. We need to address the debt crisis that affects developing countries and obstructs their ability to liberate resources to achieve stronger health systems. We must address the horrific reality that Africa pays more on debt servicing than on education and healthcare. And finally, we must expand international cooperation in training and developing skilled health workforces. We need to support and expand technology transfer, research, and innovation programs to enhance employability and address the brain drain in developing countries. These are general reflections that the Egyptian delegation wishes to share given the theme of this session, and we look forward to our continued deliberations on this and other issues throughout the forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our final intervention from the floor will be coming from Daniela Bragenda, Your Excellency, Secretary of State for Youth, for Angola. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Excellencies, distinguished guests, the Constitution of the Republic of Angola guarantees young people a special protection to fulfill their economic, social, and cultural rights. It is within this framework that our country has been consolidating public health policies focused on young people, especially on mental, sexual, reproductive health, and fighting digital disinformation. The Youth National Development Plan reinforces the integration of young people into public policies with digital literacy and healthcare programs adapted to local realities. The modernization of family farming with young people as agents of innovation and transformation also contributes to food security and community well-being. Angola recognizes the risks that digital environment can pose to mental health and advocates to an improvement and inclusiveness and data-driven approach. In this sense, we call for strengthened partnership for development of youth-centered policies with equitable access to health services and psychosocial support. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will conclude our intervention from the floor, really showcasing that diversity is going to be the key tool in order to create long-lasting, sustainable policies that make sense for all of us. And I will give the floor to Dr. Ines Costa-Laura for closing.
Hello, everyone. To start, I would like your help with a little something. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and if your answer is yes, please just raise your hand. So, who in the crowd has been inspired by the young people in their own country? So young people have been an inspiration to a lot of us. For member states, have you directly supported young people in implementing their projects? A few hands, less than expected. And now for young people. Throughout these projects, have you felt supported? A few hands as well. And as a young person, maybe actually more, this is interesting because more people felt supported than member states who raised their hands. So maybe you are supporting people without noticing. And as a young person, did you ever feel overlooked? Okay, thank you. So throughout these 3 days, we will undoubtedly hear countless times that youth will change the world. And that's undeniable. But that's only half the truth. We are changing the world right now. It's time that our ideas and solutions are not overlooked anymore. It's time for actual intergenerational collaboration between youth, member states, and UN agencies. We all have the same goal, to make the world a better, healthier place. And we are all swimming against the current. So how about we do it together instead of losing strength in our own? We can't argue how urgent it is for young people to have a seat at the table. Every day, we open our phones and are targeted by the skilled marketing of big industries that spin tales about the wonders of unhealthy products, or we fall victim to gender-based violence. Many people amplify these narratives and behaviors and spread misinformation so quickly that in a few minutes, it's in all corners of the world. Most young people are on social media. It becomes an extremely accessible space to get information that is not verified, to the point that we can't avoid being misinformed, mimicking risky behaviors, or choosing to try substances that are harmful to our health, even in the smallest quantities. It's time we use those platforms to protect young people as well. By embracing the need to modernize, we will be one step closer to dismantling misinformation, and that will only be possible with the leadership of the youth of today, and not tomorrow or not in the future. We are digital natives, tech-savvy, creative, perseverant, and we are the representatives of a generation that is tired of being left behind. I urge all decision makers sitting here to hear us. Develop official mechanisms to listen to your youth, to co-create solutions for your population's problems. Turn your eyes to great examples happening already all over the world, like UNODC's project Friends in Focus, that uses peer-to-peer education to prevent substance use. Young people were actively involved in creating this project from scratch and saw it through implementation both in Italy and Serbia, all in the space of a year. Another great example is Thailand's National Health Assembly, where not only young people but civil society have a voice. And finally, if you don't have a youth delegate sitting next to you, look at so many of them sitting around you representing their member states. It's time you join them as well. And to you, my peers, the youth, be bold, be loud, show everyone that we are not just the future, we are the present, and we are here today. Our voice matters, and our actions matter even more. Don't be afraid to ask for opportunities, to imagine, to dream, to drive change. Be your biggest cheerleader. I believe in all of us. And just to conclude, I would like to do something that really inspired me last year, to make sure everyone hears our voice. When I say youth, you say power. Youth? Power. Youth? Power. Youth? Power. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful session, and I will give back the floor to Your Excellency, Vice President, to conclude the session.
Thank you, Moderator. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, youth leaders and delegates, we have now come to the conclusion of the discussions on SDG 3, Youth and Health, Overcoming Challenges and Staying Healthy. I thank the moderator for skillfully and excellently guiding our discussions. Similarly, I thank the distinguished speakers, ASG Diana Keita and Rahman Hassan, for their very excellent, insightful presentations. I also thank all delegations and youth representatives for your participations and your constructive comments and feedbacks and your contributions and the commitments as well. Ladies and gentlemen, before adjourning these meetings, I would like to remind you that the forum will reconvene this afternoon in this chamber to continue with these programs of work. Also, I would like to invite you to visit the side events taking place during the lunchtime in the margins of the forum. And now the meeting is adjourned.
Super. Félicitations.